everybody, and welcome to episode 96 of Own the Road with AutoTrader, where we make car stuff simple for Canadians. My name is Jodi Lai, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief of AutoTrader.
And my name is Dan Ilika, and I'm back.
Back again.
But I'm also
back.
the road test editor, by the way, for anyone that's new here, or relatively new, because I haven't been here in
like
many
half
episodes.
a year or something like that. Welcome back. It's nice to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. It's nice to see Chris, our producer. It's been weird to like not be in the studio and be doing the podcast. You know, I knew I enjoyed it, but you know, I guess that absence makes the heart grow fonder thing, right? Being away for so long was like, oh man, I missed it.
So you're sentimental feeling sitting back in this seat again.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like, so I think some of you guys understand how, you know, this industry or like my role works, but just for like a little bit of an explainer is that, you know, yeah, we don't necessarily do very many news episodes, but we try to be relatively tight with our timing. We don't pre-record these like months in advance. We, you know, maybe a couple weeks out. And then with my role, it involves a lot of travel to go drive new vehicles or go to events if, I don't know, an automaker's unveiling something or there's like a tech briefing. And we have been very lucky, I guess, to this point that I haven't missed, you know, I think there was like 1 or 2 episodes over the course of like 90 that I hadn't been here for. And then the last half of this year
it was crazy.
Was just like, boom, Japan, boom, Spain, boom, California. And it was all in these like back-to-back-to-back windows that we couldn't make it work to come and record the podcast. So that's why I haven't been around. Obviously, Sebastian is an outstanding, you know, I don't even want to call him a replacement or a substitute. Like he's just, you know, great on his own. So I'm grateful that he was able to fill in for me. And now I feel a little bit like I'm filling in for him, you know?
You just have to speak with a lot more like
a noodly,
animation.
A noodly body?
Yeah.
That's what I need, you know?
That's what Seb's all about. But I'm happy you're back. And I guess this is our first episode of the new year. So happy new year, everybody.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. So like, what's been going on? Where have you been? What have you been driving? Let's update all the listeners.
Yeah. So most recently, I was in Spain to drive the Kia EV4. I think that was the last.
That was
because it was just before Christmas. So the EV4 is a new and very affordable electric, like a compact sedan. Think of it, you know, Toyota Corolla sized. 500-ish kilometers of range, depending on the trim. Some have more, some have a little bit less. I think like 478 is sort of like the low end of the range. One of the most impressive vehicles I've driven, electric or otherwise, in the last number of years.
That's so impressive, considering that it is currently like the cheapest EV in the whole country.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. And every other journalist, so again, a little bit of that behind the scene, you know, on these media drive events, it's not just me going on my own. There's journalists from other outlets, whether it's just from Canada or internationally. In this case, it was a group of Canadian journalists. And, you know, there weren't a lot of like EV skeptics in the group, but just a lot of realists. And every single you can always tell when it's like the dinner after the drive and all these like hushed tones, everyone's like, man, that was really good. Like, and everyone was in this same boat of just being so blown away by how good that car is. Prior to that, I was in Tennessee for a sort of brand update from Nissan. Some of you may or may not know that Nissan has been in the news over the last couple of years. A lot of talk about, you know, potential bankruptcy, mergers with Honda to try to save itself, mass layoffs globally to try to, you know, cut some of its runaway finances. Like some of its vehicles had been suspended, partly because of tariffs, partly as a cost reduction measure. And so to sit down with Christian Meunier, who's the chairman of Nissan Americas, and some of their other execs, and just sort of get an idea of the direction Nissan is headed. Got a little update on solid state batteries, and, you know, the cost of battery tech is still too high for that to really make sense, but it's not something that Nissan's ready to abandon. So, it's interesting times for the industry and for these brands and these products. And then on a personal note, I bought a Subaru Forester Wilderness.
Wow, congratulations.
Which I've been waiting. I'm going to do not necessarily a review, but like a video on sort of my process and, why I bought what I bought, and just to sort of explain to you guys and maybe help you understand for when it's time for you to buy your next vehicle, how to approach the buying process. But I'll give you a little bit of a sense of understanding. So I bought the 2025, which is a carryover of the previous generation of the Forester. How Subaru did this is that the last generation Forester was introduced in like 2018, I think it was. About halfway through the life cycle, the product cycle, which for Subaru tends to be about 7 or 8 years, Subaru introduced the Wilderness version. So because, you spend all that money on the tooling and the design and development of all the parts, you want to amortize that cost and, try to turn it from the red to the black, right? So when Subaru introduced the new generation of the Forester a couple years ago, it kept producing the Forester Wilderness as the old version. I prefer the styling. I prefer the user interface because it has physical climate controls as opposed to that portrait touchscreen.
Which I hate.
I don't like it at all. So I was very strategic and waited to get sort of like the last one that Subaru had in Canada before the switchover. So I just got it in December. Usually over the holidays, all of us, we book, cars over Christmas just to drive something for a couple weeks as opposed to the usual week. So Jodi was like, "Oh, what are you going to drive?" And I was like, "No, I'm not booking a car this year. I want to drive my Forester."
Because it was brand new for you at that point. So you got to know it.
And it's been everything I hoped for and then some.
So your car buying process is so interesting to me because it was also a very long process. Like you've been thinking about upgrading your Golf for like a year or so now.
Yeah, it's been a long time. The Golf made a lot of sense in terms of like lifestyle, in terms of it being sort of fun. So it was a diesel manual wagon. I mean, that's the quintessential auto journalist car. The only thing it was missing was brown paint, right?
I know.
But it started to, I was having some issues with it. Diesels, as you know, Jodi drives a diesel. Diesels need to be run. And I just wasn't driving it enough on the highway and driving long distances. And I was starting to have some issues. It was about 11 years old. And so I was looking to upgrade, but because buying a new vehicle is so few and far between for, people like us in this industry where you don't really need to be thinking about a new vehicle every few years. So I was very strategic and thoughtful. And luckily I had the time. And when it was in for repairs, okay, cool. I could just drive a press car. And I understand that's a very unique situation. But so you had said like my short list was pretty broad because I had the Maverick hybrid on there. And that was a strong contender.
It was basically between those two,
That's
right?
what it went down to.
Yeah.
But the reason why it didn't work out for me is I love the packaging of the Maverick. I don't love the facelifted style. Truthfully, in general, the style, I'm not critical of it as a unibody truck in terms of, it's not a real truck. I just didn't really like the shape and whatever, but not enough to be totally put off by it.
Right.
The facelift with those kind of fang-shaped headlights, I didn't like that so much, but again, I could live with it. The hybrid all-wheel drive, the addition of all-wheel drive was the game changer for me. So I really, really considered it. I went on the first drive, kind of like the EV4. I was blown away by it and thought, okay, I want to spend a little bit more time with it. So as soon as it was on the press fleet here in Toronto, I booked one for a week. But right away, the big problem for me was that I cannot fit a bike in the back of it without it hanging over the tailgate or whatever. And that's fine for short distances. If I'm going to a mountain bike trail somewhere, put a tailgate pad on it, hang the front wheel over, and it's no big deal. But for longer distances, when I want to bring my bike somewhere, to have it exposed to the elements for, hours and hours on end, if you want to go in and, I don't know, go to a restaurant, whatever, the thought of having it hanging off the back of the truck, it was just more, it was one of those things where I was like, I can't see myself living with it.
Yeah, and your bike is fancy too, so you can't just leave something that valuable out there.
Yeah, it's my Forbidden, like my Druid is very, I love that bike. Even, my gravel bike is nice and expensive. And so yeah, the thought of like having secure storage for the bike when I'm traveling around was very key. And then the Forester, I'm familiar with Subaru products. I do like them. I understand they're not for everyone, but for me, it makes a lot of sense. And then the height of the cabin means that I can stand the bike up with the front wheel removed. And that way, because with my Golf, I would put my bike in the back when I would drive wherever, but I would have to lay it down. And that meant taking up valuable cargo room.
Right.
So with the Forester, I can take the front wheel off, stand it up in the back, and still have all of that cargo room. Of course, I need to fold the back seats, but that's fine. And so yeah, it just makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
And I'm really happy. And I got the Geyser blue one, which I think looks really good with the copper accents. And
it's such a great combination. So why did you want to pick the Wilderness over the non-Wilderness? Is it only the generational change, or is there something else?
No, I mean the generational change, but also because I like going camping with my buddies. We go to this one particular place that's kind of remote, and having the extra ground clearance. I like the styling just in general. Like even with the new one, the Wilderness looks pretty good. But yeah, it just kind of suits my life. And then I could live with the, I guess one of the downsides with the Wilderness, the elevated ride height, the different gearing means it burns more gas than the non-Wilderness version. But because I don't drive my personal vehicle that often, it's not a huge concern for me. So I was like, yeah, okay, I can make this one work.
I'm so excited for you to go on your first camping trip with this. I feel like it'll be a game changer for you.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Once it's warm enough, you got to let me know how it goes.
For sure.
What have I been driving lately? I feel like so over the Christmas break, I had the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid, which was so nice to be able to drive something like that for 3 whole weeks, because you really get to put it through its paces. And especially during Christmas when there's like so much family and so many like things and presents to put in there. It was so nice to have.
But you said it was inefficient.
It was really inefficient. And I was trying to get really good efficiency. And my as-tested average, I drove it for like 1,600 kilometers, was 9.3 liters per 100 kilometers.
That's disappointing.
Which is a lot better than the non-hybrid, but also the official rating is like 8.1 combined or something like that. I'm like, that's really bad.
Because if you look at Toyota, right, so with the Grand Highlander, which, I mean, the Highlander, I have a sneaking suspicion that Toyota is going to have a new one soon.
Yeah.
But the Grand Highlander is available with a conventional hybrid as well as a hybrid like a turbocharged.
Yeah.
No, it's like just like a kind of performance hybrid.
Got it.
That combined rating is about the same as the Palisade, which is not a performance hybrid.
Yeah.
So I was hopeful that the Palisade was going to be closer to the conventional hybrid version of the Grand Highlander, which is around 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers.
That's so good. And so that was a little bit disappointing for me because I had it in eco mode the whole time, even when you account for the fact that, I drove it over the winter, and like the winter over Christmas was like awful. We had storms, it was windy, it was icy. And the winter tires too, but like that's not enough to account for that huge difference.
No. Now I wonder if like there's a chance that it could have been within its break-in period or close to it, and that might have affected it, because I have experienced that before. And it's not a good excuse, but it does happen sometimes that the engine's still kind of coming into its own, and so it's not operating at its most efficient.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's quite a shocking number because the hybrid is, it's a big financial upgrade to get the hybrid instead of the V6 version.
Yeah, it's like a few $1,000 more.
Yeah.
So I was really hoping that the efficiency was better because otherwise, like, perfect for
It's
a
really
family.
nice.
It's so practical. There's cubbies everywhere.
Yeah.
Even like the mechanisms to fold the seats. It makes so much sense.
And it's super stylish.
I think it really looks nice.
I think it's going to age well.
I think it will age well because the design is very like it's not simple, but it's not fussy. You know what I mean?
It's not. It's like a very timeless. Those lines, everything about it. Maybe Chris can throw a photo up so you guys can really see what it's all about. But and I think from like certain angles, and if you squint, kind of giving Range Rover. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't get into that too much with. I think Kia and Hyundai. That's always the de facto. I mean, the reality is they're very expensive now, so it's like,
they are.
You should be getting something good looking.
They're giving you more style, and that interior is also beautiful.
It's stunning. And I was never a big fan of the previous Palisade or the Kia Telluride, to be honest with you, but and I don't think that style is going to age very well.
I don't think so either.
It was very like of the time for Hyundai, whereas this, it has that, very elegant look that it's got that sort of Scandinavian, mid-century vibe to it.
It was very impressive. Other than the efficiency thing, I absolutely loved it. I also got to drive the Dodge Charger Sixpack over that little bit of time. Interesting vehicle. I liked it.
Okay.
I didn't really know what to expect because I hadn't driven the electric version yet.
The electric one is sweet.
And you loved it.
I was just really like in a different way than the EV4, not like oh wow, this thing is a game changer. I just thought that Dodge did a really good job of making it, a muscle car, but also like more than a muscle car.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some owners out on the street, just randomly
You've seen them in the wild? Yeah. Wow.
And one guy, this was his third. So previously it was the Challenger. And then when it went to this electric version, of course, it makes more sense to call it the Charger. But the Charger was the sedan, if you guys remember, that Dodge built for many years. And the weird thing is now this one is going to be available as a coupe or a sedan. The body is unchanged, which I'm really like, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm skeptical of the spaciousness of it, but it seems weird to me to add an extra door and a proper seat in the back and call it a sedan.
I mean, okay, so first of all, the coupe version is flippin' enormous.
Yeah.
It is the size. It is ever so slightly shorter than a Toyota Sequoia.
Yeah.
Like, it is huge. Yeah. Okay, so I don't think it's that crazy to add the extra door because the problem with having the coupe is that you literally cannot park and open the door comfortably.
But that was the same with the Challenger back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think adding that extra door might actually make some kind of sense for like ease of use.
I'll reserve judgment until I see it for myself. But the electric one, I just thought like, wow, they nailed it in terms of making something that feels very much like it. And owners that I've talked to, this one guy, he's like, this is my third. Wow. So he had 2 Challengers and then bought this Charger Daytona. And he's like, this is my favorite one of the 3. And this is a guy who now has owned 2 V8 powered. So he's not like, it's not like he was driving the V6 version and just puttering around. It's like he likes the performance and the feel. And he was like, this thing is killer.
See, I love to hear that because I was driving the 6-pack one and it's a great engine. Love that engine. And I really enjoyed the old Challenger for a lot of the same reason that it's very diehard fans enjoy it. And I feel like this one speaks a lot more to that audience than the electric one because like the electric one, as good as it is, it just was not selling very much at all, right? Yeah. So I think this will like scratch that like internal combustion itch for a lot of those fans. Tons of personality. Yeah. Still very much a muscle car when you get down to it.
You know what we should actually talk about? This reminds me, slight, diversion of the conversation, but still on brand literally. Today, the day that we are recording this podcast, I was chatting with a spokesperson from Stellantis that the plug-in hybrids that it currently sells, so the Pacifica minivan the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe and the Jeep Wrangler 4xe are being discontinued as of 2026. And the Wrangler in particular is what surprises me because, yes, a lot of it had to do with when incentives were available, but that spent at least 2 years as the best-selling plug-in hybrid in North America.
Really?
Because with incentives, it made it more affordable than the gas-only version.
Oh.
So you could buy a Rubicon, and if you got your, in the States, however many few $1,000s off. In Canada, I think it qualified for $2,500 off. It actually made it more affordable than the V6 version. So it was a huge seller. And I think I've talked to Wrangler 4xe owners. They really like what it offers.
They love it.
So the fact that this thing is being discontinued and, it's one of those boilerplate responses that, we're always
adapting
evaluating
to consumer demand.
Yeah. And it's like, well, okay, cool. I mean, this is one of those like what came first, right? To me, the chicken or the egg. I don't know. Consumer demand. It's not like people are telling you, we don't want to buy that thing. Like you're only going to know if you build it and sell it and actually put the powers of your marketing department and your sales department, price it right, do all that stuff. That's how you sell vehicles. And that was a vehicle that sold well. So I don't know. It's a little bit weird. And that is another brand, kind of like Nissan, that I don't know what's going on with Stellantis. And
every time they make an announcement, I feel like they're going backwards.
I mean, that much is very true. They're going off about, look at how many orders we have for the Hemi and the Ram. And it's like, okay, but that's pent up demand. Let's talk. Issue that same press release a year from now.
Right.
Let's see if that's still the case. If the order books are still, just chock full of requests for the Hemi, or if it's going to stabilize a bit. And if that's the case, then, chill, bro. Like,
yeah, and I know I dunk a lot on Stellantis for this kind of stuff, but they're not the only automaker doing this, right? Like, there's the economy being what it is, the demand being what it is, tariffs, all this stuff, right? Like the Volkswagen ID Buzz not going to be here much longer.
Oh my God.
The Ford F-150 Lightning, like these are major EVs, and they're all going away. They're all being discontinued.
Which the F-150 Lightning, again, popular.
It sold tons, and it was amazing, and it was a groundbreaker when it came here. It was the first real EV truck that we could buy in this country, and it was great. We loved it. It doesn't work for everybody, but it sold. Yeah, it sold a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like looking at the year ahead, and I mean, automakers can't pivot very quickly because, development of vehicles generally, okay, so I mentioned earlier, like product life cycle, 7-8 years. Generally speaking, when you launch a vehicle, you immediately have a team starting the development of the next generation. Like that's how far out the lead time is on these products. So whether it's, the EPA relaxing fuel economy standards and emission standards, or EVs, are harder to sell now than ever before because they're still expensive and they've become this ideological target. But like automakers can't just be like, oh, cool, okay, we're not going to do it anymore. It's crazy that Ram dropped the Rev, the all-electric version of the Ram 1500.
After it's been in development for so many years.
It's not like with Ford where it's been officially announced and there's like, okay, here's how much it's going to cost to pivot because it's a public company, so they have to tell you that information. Ram hasn't said how much it spent developing the all-electric Ram 1500, but like I would imagine it has to be pretty close to $1 billion, maybe even more.
Yeah. So and for them to backtrack
to just boom, it's gone. And now the Rev is going to be this range extended version where it's kind of like it functions. This bothers me more than anything else that Ram's making it seem like it's this groundbreaking technology. Chevy did it with the Volt years ago.
Yep.
So it's like to make it, and BMW did it with the i3. So it's like this idea of a range extender being this like, oh man, we came up with this. It's like, get out of here.
Chill, bro.
Like, but I mean, I am intrigued by it. However, to me, it's a little bit like, waving a white flag before you've even had the chance to like go to war with it, right?
Yeah, I know. It's a shame because it could have been really good. Like Ram makes great trucks, and I would have loved to see what this new one was going to be like.
I remember being in, was it New York, I believe, when it was revealed, and this was like, I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. And I just so happened to like get a front row seat, and I was really excited because that's the thing, right? Stellantis in general and Ram specifically, one thing I will say, regardless of the fact that I don't agree with a lot of the marketing, and I think, we've talked about it before, there's some real dog whistles there. The one thing is when that brand is enthused about something, they do a damn good job of like, kind of sharing that enthusiasm.
And to hype people up, and it works.
So I was really excited to see what Ram was going to do with the Ram Rev, and the fact that it totally walked away from it, to me, is kind of, I hate to say it, it's kind of cowardly.
I was thinking that too, actually.
Because again, that's, the future is still, I said this to you the other day, that the idea of automakers pivoting is like, steering a cruise ship. So, okay, right now we're in this space. I mean, the elephant in the room is like, it's the Trump administration that is relaxing these emissions regulations. And okay, there is that chicken or the egg talk about, well, is it consumer demand or is it the industry? But, let's just say it's a bit of both. But they can't, like I just said, they can't pivot that quickly. So you're abandoning these programs where, well, how do you know in a couple of years if a government in the States gets elected that goes, no, we're going back to those emission standards.
Yeah.
And now you've flushed $1 billion down the toilet and have to start over again.
Do you think they would have to start over again? Or I think might be able to revive some of their plans. But my worry is that in that time, the tech would have already advanced so much with other automakers.
The tech could have
They'll have to catch up.
The platform.
Yeah.
Even other stuff, suppliers, right? When you suddenly cancel these contracts with these suppliers, which is, okay, you're not making the vehicle anymore, so you don't owe them anything, and that's just how the business goes. But then if they're going, okay, well, we have this, let's say it's a battery supplier. Well, we have all of this capacity now that we want to fill. So they're going to go, these suppliers are going to go find customers that will buy it from them. So now if Ram comes and knocks on the door and goes, guys, we need it, it might be kind of too little too late. It's like, so I don't know. It's going to be an interesting time for a lot of reasons, this being one of them. But I'm intrigued to drive the Ram Rev with the range extender. And anyways, now we've rambled for a long time, so I guess we should get to an Ask an Expert.
Okay, before our Ask an Expert, here's a message from your friends at AutoTrader. It's us! We're your friends at AutoTrader! We at Own the Road love making car stuff simple for Canadians, and the AutoTrader app does the exact same thing. Sign up for price drop notifications, find out how much your car is worth, get an instant cash offer from a vetted dealership, get all your expert advice, and more. Download the AutoTrader app today! This week's Ask an Expert comes from Dan Brammer.
Hello, Dan.
He asks, why would someone buy a Honda Prelude when a Genesis G70 exists? Honda's is smaller, but that back seat is a problem. The Genesis is more premium, has more horsepower, all-wheel drive, better warranty, and supreme dealership service, and the price is not that far off. What are your thoughts on this comparison? Interesting question. So when I first read this, I was like, I don't really think they compete with each other. Kind of a weird question. But then the more I looked into it, I'm like, Dan, you really have a point here. So the G70 is only like $3,000 more than a Prelude. Yeah. And I know they don't compete with each other, but the pricing is really close.
I mean, Honda's pricing, we've talked about this before, is one of the most head-scratching things in this entire industry. Like,
truly.
I understand. Like, I mean, look at Nissan as an example of what happens when your finances are out of order. So maybe Honda knows it needs to charge more in order to kind of, keep the lights on. But like, yeah, the Prelude is a good example. I mean, that Passport Trail Sport that I drove last year, $60,000 for something that's like missing a lot of features.
Yeah, and this Prelude is about $50,000.
Yeah.
For something that is not practical, kind of confusing for a lot of consumers. I think pricing wise, to me the question is more likely, why would anyone buy a Prelude when a Volkswagen GTI exists that is cheaper, more powerful?
But sort of to the same, the answer I think is similar for both GTI versus Prelude and G70 versus Prelude, is that hybrid shoppers tend to be hybrid shoppers, and you're not going to convince somebody who is looking at a G70 to consider the Prelude and vice versa.
Right.
Like, to tell somebody, I agree, like, Dan, this is a solid point, and it's one of those like very interesting light bulb moments for sure. But I think when it actually comes down to it, I don't think you would be able to say to someone, hey, you're thinking about my buddies and I have this running joke of like, oh, you're shopping for a new pickup. Have you considered a 2005 Ford Mustang convertible? Because it's just like such a, random thing to throw out there. And that kind of has like, this has that same sense of like, sure, I do agree from pricing and performance and, I guess practicality, although like, have you tried to sit in the back seat of a G70? Because that's punishment.
I mean, it's tiny, but it's not, I couldn't even fit in the Prelude's back seat.
No, I know, but the G70 is much better.
No, I know, but I think my issue with the Prelude is that just by looking at it, without looking at the specs or anything, you'd be like, okay, like Toyota GR86, Subaru BRZ, but those are like rear-wheel drive, manual, like traditional sports cars.
This is going to be a weird car to drive.
The Prelude is a hybrid, sporty coupe.
That's a
front-wheel drive.
That Honda made it very clear that it's not a sports car. It's a Grand Tourer.
Yes. And
that to me is like a bit of, I appreciate setting expectations, but that's a bit of like oh man, they don't, like, they know that it's not very sporty and fun to drive. And again, this is me speculating. I haven't driven it as of this recording, and we have one booked, but that's not for another handful of weeks. So I will reserve judgment on this too. But when an automaker says something like that, you have to kind of like read between the lines and go, okay, they want to make clear that this isn't, like an Civic Si, but a coupe.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, I actually, when the Prelude first came out, I actually thought like, okay, I could see that being really good for someone like me who wants something that's like a little bit sporty, but also efficiency is important to me. So I could see that working. But then they came out with the pricing announcement. And I was like, $50,000 for that?
So much money.
I would much rather just get a GTI. Way more practical, like way more fun.
But that's the same, like the whole G70 versus Prelude thing. A hatchback buyer is a very specific buyer. And the other thing with the Prelude, not just like in terms of the hybrid system being silent and whatever, but like a GT car is, this smooth kind of like, you think about going on these like long drives, I don't know, to wine country sort of thing. Right. And like the GTI is not that vehicle.
No. It's not. But anyway, this whole question was like, well, who is the Prelude really for? And this is what we still don't know. So Dan, I like this question. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you, but it is a very confusing vehicle.
Yeah, it is.
We have one, but we haven't driven it. I'm driving it in like a month or so. So I'll let you know how that goes. I'm really curious about it. I loved the original Prelude as a child. It was like one of those cars that got me like really interested in cars in the first place. But if any of you have questions you would like to ask us, you could email expert@trader.ca.
The last thing I want to say is you guys will notice I'm wearing my Matt Milano Buffalo Bills jersey. We are mere days away here from the Bills playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm like cautiously optimistic about this. we'll see what happens. I think you and Seb are doing the next episode of the podcast. Again, I'm going to be on the road. So we'll have to check in even further down the road to see just how the Bills did. But yeah, it's exciting times. Playoff football. I mean, you got to love it.
I mean, I don't know anything about sports. Like I said, only if it's happened on heated rivalry. That's the only way I'll know about it.
Fair enough.
Okay. Thank you all so much for being here with us. If you haven't done so already, make sure to download the app. Visit autotrader.ca/expert for all the expert advice that you need.
Wait, isn't it editorial?
I think it's expert. Oh, expert is for our reviews. That's where you'll find our reviews. They'll both bring you to awesome stuff.
I always go autotrader.ca/editorial.
That is one, yeah.
Okay.
That's our main
I
editorial.
learned something today. I did not know that was the extension.
Expert?
Yeah.
Expert brings you, I think, just to our reviews section.
Guys, I'm the road test editor. That's my section, and I didn't even know that if I typed that in as a URL, it would directly take me to that section.
Well, there you go. Now you know.
Wow, I'm glad I'm back.
Welcome back, Dan. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I really want to get to 100K this year, and I need your help to do it. So make sure you subscribe. We would really love it. And thank you so much. Drive safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.